The warship blocked the sun over Seoul for 3 hours before the aliens came down. People had stopped screaming by then. They had stopped running. They just stood in the streets and looked up at the massive black shape that hung in the sky like a mountain turned upside down. The Volari had conquered 17 star systems before they found Earth. They were tall, covered in black scales that shined like wet stone, and they had 4 arms each. Their eyes were yellow and had no whites. When they smiled, their mouths showed rows of teeth like broken glass. Commander Tarek was the leader of the occupation force. He stood 7 feet tall and wore armor made from the bones of species he had defeated. Around his neck hung a necklace of teeth from generals who had tried to fight him. He had not added a new tooth in many years. No one fought the Volari anymore. Everyone just surrendered. Earth had surrendered too. The governments of the world had looked at the alien weapons and done the math. Fighting would mean extinction. So they bowed their heads and opened their doors and hoped the aliens would be kind. They were not kind. But they were not cruel either. They simply did not care. Humans were small and soft and useless. The Volari wanted Earth for its water and its metals. The humans were just animals living on land they now owned. Tarek found his assignment insulting. He was a conqueror of worlds, and they sent him to inspect schools. Human schools. Places where children sat in rows and learned to read and add numbers. It was like sending a lion to inspect a rabbit farm. But orders were orders. The High Council wanted to understand humans. They wanted reports on human culture, human education, human potential. Tarek thought it was a waste of time. These creatures had no potential. They were soft. They had no claws, no armor, no venom. They could not even run very fast. The transport landed in front of Seoul Metropolitan Academy on a Tuesday morning. The students had been told to stay in their classrooms. The teachers had been told to cooperate. Everyone had been told that resistance would result in death. Tarek walked through the front doors with 6 of his elite guards behind him. The guards were smaller than him, but still massive compared to humans. They carried weapons that could burn through walls. They looked at the humans the way humans might look at insects. The hallways were empty. Tarek could hear his own footsteps echoing off the walls. He could smell fear coming from behind every closed door. It was a smell he knew well. Every species smelled the same when they were afraid. He chose a classroom at random. Room 3 to 7. 3rd floor, 7th room. He pushed the door open without knocking. 30 students looked up at him. They sat in neat rows, their hands on their desks, their faces pale. A teacher stood at the front of the room. He was a middle-aged man with gray hair and glasses. His name tag said Mr. Kang. Mr. Kang bowed deeply. His hands were shaking, but his voice was steady. "Welcome, Commander. We are honored by your visit." Tarek did not answer. He walked into the room slowly, looking at each student. They were young, 16, 17 years old by human counting. They wore matching uniforms of white shirts and dark pants or skirts. They looked fragile, breakable. "These are your warriors?" Tarek asked. His translator turned his growling language into Korean. "Children? Soft, small, breakable things?" Mr. Kang kept his head bowed. "They are students, Commander. They study mathematics, science, literature." Literature. Tarek laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. The Volari begin combat training at birth. By this age, our young have killed their first enemy. They have earned their first scars. They have proven their worth. He walked between the desks, looking down at the students. None of them at his eyes. They stared at their desks, at the floor, at anything except the monster walking among them. K stopped beside a boy in the 2nd row. He grabbed the boy's arm and lifted it, examining it like a farmer checking livestock. The boy did not resist. He did not even breathe. Thin, Torek said. Weak, no muscle, no calluses. These hands have never held a weapon. He dropped the arm and moved on. He checked another student's teeth, pulling the girl's jaw open to look inside. She whimpered but did not pull away. Small teeth, flat, useless for tearing flesh. Torek shook his head. What use is your species? You cannot fight. You cannot hunt. You can only think and read and do mathematics. He said the last word like it was something dirty. Torek walked to the back of the room, his guards spreading out along the walls. The students sat frozen, barely breathing. The air was thick with terror. Then Torek stopped. He had reached the third row from the back. A girl sat there, alone at her desk. She was small, even for a human. Her black hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail. She wore the same uniform as everyone else. There was nothing special about her, except her eyes. She was looking at him. Not at her desk. Not at the floor. At him. Her dark eyes were steady and calm. There was no fear in them. There was something else. Something Torek could not name. He leaned down until his face was close to hers. His breath was hot and smelled like sulfur. His yellow eyes stared into her brown ones. This one, he said loudly, so everyone could hear. She barely reaches my chest. Her arms are thin as sticks. I could break her in half with one hand. The girl did not blink. To Rek felt something strange. A prickling on his scales. A feeling he had not felt in many years. It was warning. His body was telling him something that his mind did not want to hear. He ignored it. What is your name, little creature? He asked. Yuna, she said. Her voice was quiet but clear. She spoke without trembling. Yuna. Torek tested the name. Tell me, Yuna, what do you study in this school? Mathematics? Literature? The art of running away? Many things, Yuna said. History, science, languages. And what good are these things? When the Valari came, did your history save you? Did your science stop our ships? Torek laughed again. Your species is weak. You surrendered without firing a single shot. You lay down like prey animals and showed us your bellies. Yuna said nothing. She just watched him with those steady eyes. Torek straightened up. He was done with this room. These humans were the same as all the others. Weak, fearful, worthless. Then Yuna spoke. May I ask a question, Commander? The room went completely silent. Even the guards turned to look. No human had spoken directly to Commander Torek since the occupation began. No human had dared. Mr. Kang's face went white. He opened his mouth to apologize, to beg forgiveness, to do something. But Torek raised one of his 4 hands to stop him. The commander looked down at this small human girl who dared to speak. The prickling on his scales grew stronger. His ancestors had survived by listening to such warnings. But Torek had conquered 17 star systems. He did not run from anything. Speak, he said. Speak, little creature. Ask your question. Yuna stood up slowly. She pushed her chair back and rose to her full height. The top of her head barely reached his second set of shoulders. She looked like a child standing before a giant, but she did not look afraid. Your strongest warrior, she said. The one you are most proud of. The one who has never been defeated. She paused. Could I fight them? The silence that followed was absolute. No one moved. No one breathed. Even the guards seemed frozen. Then Commander Torek began to laugh. Torek's laughter filled the classroom like thunder. It shook the windows. It rattled the desks. The students covered their ears, and the guards joined in, their voices mixing together into a sound that was not quite laughter and not quite roaring. But Yuna did not move. She stood beside her desk with her hands at her sides, waiting for the laughter to stop. Her face showed nothing. Not fear, not embarrassment, not anger. She simply waited. Finally, Torek stopped laughing. He wiped a thick finger across his yellow eyes and looked down at the girl. "You wish to die?" he asked. His voice was still shaking with amusement. "Is this human despair? I have heard that your kind breaks easily, that some of you choose death over life. Is that what this is?" "No, Commander," Yuna said. "I do not wish to die." "Then you are insane." Torek shook his massive head. "A human challenging a Valari warrior. This is madness. You would last less than 3 seconds. I have seen it before. Your bodies come apart like wet paper." Yuna's expression did not change. "I do not wish to fight just any warrior," she said. "I wish to fight your strongest, your champion, the one who has never lost." The guards exchanged looks. One of them stepped forward and spoke to Torek in their own language. The translator did not catch the words, but Yuna could guess what he was saying. He was probably asking if they should just kill her now and be done with it. Torek held up a hand to silence his guard. He leaned down again, bringing his face close to Yuna's. His breath washed over her in waves of heat and sulfur. His yellow eyes studied her like a puzzle he could not solve. "Why?" he asked. "Why would you want this?" "I wish to make a wager," Yuna said. The word hit Torek like a physical blow. He straightened up so quickly that he nearly hit the ceiling. His 4 hands clenched into fists. His scales, which had been dark and calm, suddenly flickered with colors. Blue and purple and red, moving across his body like fire. "A wager," he repeated. His voice had changed. It was no longer amused. It was careful, serious doubt behind him. The guards had gone still. They were looking at Yuna differently now. There was something in their eyes that might have been respect. Or fear. Or both. Yuna nodded. "I know about Valari wagers," she said. "I have studied your kind since you arrived. A wager is sacred to your people. If a wager is accepted, it cannot be refused. If a wager is won, the terms must be honored. Even the High Council cannot break a wager." Torek stared at her. "How do you know this?" "Your soldiers talk," Yuna said simply. "They assume we do not understand. But some of us have been listening. Some of us have been learning." Torek felt the prickling on his scales again. This time, it was stronger. This girl knew things she should not know. She had prepared for this moment. She had planned it, but a wager was a wager. If he refused, he would look weak in front of his guards. Word would spread. A human child had challenged Commander Torek to a wager, and he had been too afraid to accept. His reputation would be ruined. "What are your terms?" he asked. Yuna took a breath. Around her, the other students watched with wide eyes. Her best friend, a girl named Jiwoo, sat 2 desks away. She was shaking her head, her lips forming the word no over and over again. "If I lose," Yuna said, "I will serve your empire. I will travel with you from planet to planet. I will tell every species we meet that resistance is foolish. I will tell them that humans submitted because we knew we could not win. I will be your proof that Earth made the right choice." Torek considered this. A human willing to speak for the Valari would be useful. It would make future conquests easier. Other species would see that even humans accepted Valari rule. "And if you win?" he asked. "If I win, you leave this school. You report to the High Council that humans are not worth the trouble. You recommend withdrawal from Earth." Torek laughed again, but this time there was no humor in it. "You think you can defeat a Valari warrior? You? A child? A female of a weak species?" "I think I can try," Yuna said. "That is all I ask. One fight. One chance." Torek looked at his guards. They were waiting for his decision. They all knew what would happen if he accepted. The girl would die. It would be fast or slow, depending on who she fought, but it would happen. There was no doubt, but there was also no reason to refuse. A wager against a human child was not a risk. It was a joke. And when she died, her death would be a lesson to every human who thought about resisting. "I accept your wager," Torek said. Jiwoo let out a small cry. She jumped from her desk and grabbed Yuna's wrist. Her face was wet with tears. "Yuna, stop, please. This is not brave. This is suicide. You cannot win. No one can win." Yuna gently removed her friend's hand. She held it for a moment, squeezing it softly. "I know what I'm doing," she said. "Trust me." "How can I trust you?" "You are going to die." Yuna smiled. It was a small smile, quiet and sad. "Maybe," she said. "But maybe not. There are things about me you do not know. Things I've never told anyone." Jiwoo shook her head. "What things? What are you talking about?" But Yuna did not answer. She turned back to Torek, her face becoming calm again. The smile disappeared. The softness disappeared. There was only stillness. Only waiting. Torek watched this exchange with interest. The girl was not afraid. Even now, knowing she was about to fight a Valari warrior, she was not afraid. There was something wrong here. Something he could not see. But it did not matter. Whatever secret she had, they would not save her. Nothing could save her. "The wager is accepted," Torek announced. His voice was loud enough for everyone to hear. "This human child will fight our champion. If she wins, we leave this school and recommend withdrawal from Earth. If she loses, she serves the Empire." He activated his communicator, a device built into the armor on his wrist. He spoke in Valari, and this time he did not care if the humans understood. "Bring Captain Voss," he said. "Tell him to come to the human school. Tell him he has permission to kill." He ended the communication and looked down at Yuna. She had not moved. She had not reacted to the name. "Captain Voss is our greatest warrior," Torek said. "He has killed more enemies than I can count. He has destroyed entire armies by himself. He ended the Morthian War in a single day by walking into their capital and killing everyone inside." Yuna nodded slowly. "Good," she said. Torek blinked. That was not the reaction he expected. Most enemies, when they heard Voss's name, began to beg. They offered anything to avoid facing him. Some killed themselves rather than wait for him to arrive. But this girl just nodded. Just said, "Good," as if he had told her the weather. The prickling on his scales was now a burning. Every instinct in his body was screaming at him. Something was wrong. Something was very, very wrong. But it was too late to back out now. The wager was made. The fight would happen. And surely, a human child could not defeat Captain Voss. Could she? Mr. Kang finally spoke. His voice was barely a whisper. "Commander, please. She is just a student. She does not know what she is doing. Can you not show mercy?" Torek looked at the teacher with contempt. "Mercy is for the weak," he said. "She made her choice. Now she will live or die by it." He turned and walked toward the door. His guards followed. At the door, he stopped and looked back at Yuna. "You have 1 hour," he said. "Use it to say goodbye to your friends, to pray to whatever gods your kind believes in. When Voss arrives, your life ends." Yuna met his eyes. "We will see," she said, and for the first time in many years, Commander Torek felt something he had almost forgotten: doubt. They cleared the gymnasium in 30 minutes. Valari soldiers pushed the equipment to the walls. Basketball hoops were torn down. Benches were dragged away. By the time they were finished, the center of the room was empty. Just a wide wooden floor with nothing on it. The students of Seoul Metropolitan Academy were brought in and forced to sit in the bleachers. They came in lines, class by class, their faces pale and scared. Teachers sat with them, holding the hands of the youngest ones. No one spoke. No one needed to. Everyone knew what was about to happen. Tarek stood at the edge of the floor with his guards around him. He had removed his bone armor and wore only his black scales. This was not his fight, but he wanted to be comfortable. He wanted to enjoy it. Yuna entered from the locker room. She had changed out of her school uniform. Now she wore simple white clothes, loose pants, and a loose top. Her feet were bare. Her hair was still in its ponytail. She walked to the center of the floor and stood there, alone. Jiwoo watched from the bleachers. Tears ran down her face, but she did not look away. If her friend was going to die, she would watch. She would remember. She would tell the story forever. The doors at the far end of the gymnasium opened. Captain Voss walked in, and the room seemed to shrink around him. He was 9 feet tall. His body was covered in scales that were thicker and darker than any other Volari. Scars crossed his chest and arms, white lines against the black. His forearms were thick with muscle. Each hand held a blade that curved like a moon and shone like water. His face was the worst part. One of his eyes was missing, replaced by a metal ball that glowed red. His mouth was fixed in a permanent smile because half his lips had been torn away in some ancient battle. He looked like death itself had taken shape and learned to walk. The students in the bleachers began to cry. Some of them screamed. Teachers tried to calm them, but their own voices were shaking. Yuna did not react. She watched Voss approach the way someone might watch a cloud move across the sky. With patience, with calm, with no fear at all. Voss stopped at the edge of the floor. He looked at Yuna, then at Tarek. "This is the challenger?" His voice was like rocks grinding together. "This small thing?" "This is her," Tarek said. A wager was made. Sacred terms. She believes she can defeat you. Voss laughed. It was a horrible sound. "I have killed 10,000 enemies," he said. "Warriors, generals, champions of their species. They all died begging. And now I am to fight a human child who reaches my waist? The wager is sacred," Tarek repeated. "It must be honored. Then it will be quick." Voss stepped onto the floor. His weight made the wood creak. "I will try to leave enough of her for us to bury." Yuna stood in the center of the floor and waited. She did not take a fighting stance. She did not raise her hands. She just stood with her arms at her sides, breathing slowly. Tarek raised his voice. "The wager is between Yuna of Earth and Captain Voss of the Volari Empire. The fight is to death or surrender. No weapons for the human. 4 blades for the Volari. These are the terms. No weapons?" Voss shook his head. "This is not a fight. This is an execution." "Begin," Tarek said. Voss moved. He was fast. Impossibly fast for something so large. One moment, he was standing at the edge of the floor. The next, he was in the center, his 4 blades cutting through the air where Yuna had been standing. But Yuna was not there. She had stepped to the side. Not jumped. Not rolled. Just stepped. A small movement, calm and precise, that put her exactly 1 inch away from the nearest blade. Voss spun, his blade slicing in a wide circle. The air screamed as the metal cut through it. Anyone caught in that circle would have been cut into pieces. Yuna ducked. She dropped straight down as the blades passed over her head, then rose again as they passed. It looked like she was dancing, like she knew exactly where the blades would be before they got there. Voss attacked again, and again, and again. His blades moved so fast they were just silver blurs. He attacked from every angle, high and low, left and right. He used patterns he had learned over centuries of war. patterns that had killed champions of a dozen species. Yuna avoided every single one. She flowed around, his attacks like water around a stone. When he cut left, she moved right. When he stabbed forward, she stepped back. When he swung down, she glided to the side. Her movements were small and simple. She never wasted energy. She never hurried. The gymnasium had gone completely silent. Even the crying students had stopped. Everyone watched with wide eyes as this tiny human girl danced with death and refused to die. Voss's breathing grew heavy. His attacks grew wilder. He was not used to this. He was used to enemies who fought back. Enemies who tried to block or dodge or run. This girl did none of those things. She simply was not where his blades were. It was like trying to cut smoke. "Stand still!" Voss roared. He brought all 4 blades down in a massive strike that cracked the wooden floor. Pieces of wood flew into the air. Yuna was already behind him. She reached out and pressed her palm against his lower back. It was a gentle touch, like a mother checking a child's fever. But Voss froze as if she had stabbed him. "Your species carries its main nerve cluster here," Yuna said. Her voice was quiet, but everyone heard it. 3 inches of pressure in the right place would paralyze you forever. 6 inches would kill you instantly. Voss spun around, his blades slashing wildly. Yuna stepped back, still calm, still breathing slowly. "How do you know this?" Voss demanded. "Our biology is secret. No other species knows our weaknesses." "Your soldiers talk," Yuna said. It was the same thing she had told Torek. "They drink and they brag and they talk. And some of us listen." Voss attacked again, but now there was something new in his movements. Something that had not been there before. Fear. He swung his upper right blade at her head. She tilted to the side, and as she moved, her fingers brushed the soft tissue behind his elbow. He felt a shock of pain run up his arm. He stabbed with his lower left blade. She twisted away, and her hand pressed against the gap in his scales under his arm. He gasped as something important moved wrong inside him. He tried to bring all 4 blades together to trap her. She dropped to one knee, sliding beneath them, and her palm touched the membrane protecting his throat. She did not push. She did not strike. She just touched, but he felt it. He felt how easy it would be for her to kill him. Tarek watched from the edge of the floor. His scales had gone pale. His 4 hands gripped each other so tightly they hurt. This was impossible. This could not be happening. But it was Voss stumbled backward, putting distance between himself and the girl. His chest heaved. His blades trembled. In all his centuries of war, no enemy had ever touched him so many times without leaving a mark. Yuna stood in the center of the floor, exactly where the fight had begun. Her breathing was steady. Her face was calm. She was not even sweating. "Would you like to continue?" she asked. Voss looked at Commander Torek. For the first time in his life, he did not know what to do. And in the bleachers, Jiwoo began to smile. The silence in the gymnasium was so complete that Yuna could hear her own heartbeat. Slow, steady, calm. She had trained her heart to beat like this even when death was close. Especially when death was close. Captain Voss stood 10 feet away from her. His 4 blades no longer moved with confidence. They trembled. His one real eye was wide, and his metal eye flickered like a broken light. He had fought 10,000 enemies. He had never felt like this. "What are you?" he asked. His voice had lost its thunder. It was almost a whisper. Yuna did not answer immediately. She looked at him the way a teacher looks at a student who has finally asked the right question. "I am human," she said. "That is all." "No." Voss shook his head. "Humans are soft. Humans are weak. Humans do not move like you move. Humans do not know our weaknesses. You are wrong. Yuna began to walk slowly, circling him. Her bare feet made no sound on the wooden floor. You think you know what humans are? You came to our planet and saw our cities and our schools and our children, and you decided we were prey. Easy targets. Animals who had not yet learned to fight. She stopped walking. She was behind him now, and he turned quickly to face her. His blades came up, but they did not attack. He was afraid to attack. Every time he attacked, she touched another weakness. But you only saw what we wanted you to see, Yuna continued. You saw our surrender. You saw our fear. You did not see what we have been doing for 200,000 years. What? Voss demanded. What have you been doing? Killing each other. The words hung in the air like smoke. Tarek stepped forward from the edge of the floor. His face had changed. The mockery was gone. The amusement was gone. There was only a cold, growing understanding. Explain, he said. Explain what you mean. Yuna turned to face the commander. She spread her arms wide, showing her small body, her thin arms, her soft skin. Look at me, she said. I have no claws, no fangs, no armor, no venom. By every measure, I am one of the weakest creatures in the galaxy. I should be at the bottom of the food chain. I should be prey for everything that can run faster or bite harder. She lowered her arms. But I am not prey. My species is not prey. We have conquered our planet. We have hunted every predator to the edge of extinction. We have killed so many of our own kind that we lost count long ago. She looked at Voss. You have killed 10,000 enemies. My species has killed billions of its own people. Billions. We have invented weapons that can burn cities to ash in seconds. We have created poisons that can kill everything on a continent. We have built bombs that can crack the planet itself. The students in the bleachers were watching with different eyes now. They had grown up learning about war as history. Dates and names and numbers in textbooks. Now they were hearing it described as something else. As proof of what they were. Your empire conquers through size and strength, Yuna said. You are bigger than your enemies. Stronger. Faster. So you win. It is simple. It is easy. She shook her head. Humans have never had that luxury. We are small. We are slow. We are weak. So we learned something different. She moved. It was not fast. It was not sudden. But one moment she was standing in front of Voss, and the next she was beside him, her hand pressing against the back of his knee. He tried to move, but his leg buckled. He went down on one knee, his blade scraping against the floor. We learned how to kill things bigger than us, Yuna said. She was still touching his knee, pressing on something that made his whole leg numb. We learned how to find weaknesses. We learned how to use our minds to defeat our bodies. She removed her hand and stepped back. Voss tried to stand, but his leg would not work. He stayed on one knee, breathing hard, looking up at her. The technique I just used is called Hapkido, Yuna said. It was invented on this peninsula, in this country, hundreds of years ago. It was designed to help small people defeat large attackers. There are dozens of techniques like it. Hundreds. Humans have been developing ways to kill each other since before we could write. She walked around Voss, staying just out of reach of his blades. Judo, Aikido, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Krav Maga, Sambo, wrestling, boxing. She listed the names like she was reading from a menu. Every culture on Earth has developed fighting systems. We practice them for sport, for exercise, for fun. Human children learn to fight before they learn to read. Torek felt cold. His species had conquered 17 star systems, and not once had they encountered anything like this. Other species had warriors. Other species had weapons. But no species had spent its entire history perfecting the art of killing itself. When your ships appeared in our sky, Una said, our government surrendered. They looked at your weapons and your numbers, and they knew we could not win. Not in open war. Not in a battle of strength against strength. She stopped walking. She was facing Voss again, standing just in front of him. But humans have never won through strength. We win through other means. Through patience. Through intelligence. Through learning our enemies and finding their weaknesses. She smiled. It was not a friendly smile. Your soldiers talked. They bragged about their conquests. They described their bodies and their weaknesses. They did not think we were listening. They did not think we were a threat. She crouched down so her face was level with Voss's. They were wrong. Voss lunged. It was a desperate attack, all four blades stabbing forward at once. If any of them connected, Una would be cut into pieces. But Una was not there. She had moved to the side, caught his wrist, and turned his own momentum against him. Voss flew through the air and crashed onto his back. The floor cracked beneath his weight. His blades scattered across the gymnasium. Before he could move, Una was on him. Her elbow pressed against his throat. Not hard enough to kill, just hard enough to show that she could. Yield, she said. Voss stared up at her. His metal eye flickered. His real eye was wide with something Torek had never seen in it before. Terror. Yield, Una said again. Or I will show you what else humans have learned. For a long moment, nothing happened. The gymnasium was frozen. Everyone waited. Then Captain Voss, who had never lost a battle, who had killed 10,000 enemies, who had ended wars by walking into cities alone, spoke a word he had never spoken before. I yield. The gymnasium exploded with sound. Students screamed. Some of them cheered. Jiru was on her feet, crying and laughing at the same time, but Torek did not move. He stood at the edge of the floor, staring at the impossible scene before him. A human child stood over his greatest warrior, and for the first time in 17 conquered systems, Commander Torek understood what fear really meant. 3 months passed. Spring turned to summer. The cherry blossoms fell, and the leaves grew thick and green. And one morning, the people of Sol looked up and saw something they had stopped hoping for. The Volari ships were leaving. They rose from the city one by one, their massive black shapes growing smaller as they climbed into the sky. By noon, they were just dots. By evening, they were gone. The sky was blue again, empty except for clouds and birds dotting the streets. People stood and watched. They did not cheer. They did not celebrate. They simply watched, not quite believing what they were seeing. For 6 months, the aliens had been part of their lives. Now they were gone. The news spread across the planet in hours. Every country, every city, every village heard the same thing. The Volari Empire had withdrawn from Earth. No one knew why. The aliens had not explained. They had simply packed their equipment, gathered their soldiers, and left. But some people knew. Some people had heard the story of a girl in Sol who had challenged a monster, and one. Commander Torek stood before the High Council on a world 40 light years from Earth. The council chamber was vast, built to hold thousands of Volari leaders. Torek stood alone in the center, a single figure before the judgment of his people. Explain, the first speaker demanded. You were sent to occupy a primitive world. Instead, you recommend withdrawal. Explain your failure. Torek did not flinch. He had expected this. He had prepared for it. I did not fail, he said. I learned. He activated a hologram. The recording from the gymnasium played before the council. They watched a human child stand before Captain Voss. They watched her dance around his blades. They watched her touch his weaknesses one by one. They watched her put their greatest warrior on his back and make him yield. When it was over, Silence filled the chamber. "This is one child," the first speaker said. "One human. It proves nothing. It proves everything." Torek stepped forward. "I researched their species after this event. I studied their history, their cultures, their wars." He brought up new images, battles, weapons, armies, the destruction of cities, the burning of continents, the long bloody story of human violence. "They've been fighting each other for 200,000 years, Torek said. "They have developed thousands of ways to kill. They have weapons that can destroy planets. They have poisons that can kill everything that breathes. They have bombs that can turn cities to glass." He paused, letting the council see the images. Mushroom clouds, chemical attacks, battlefields covered with bodies. "And they use these weapons on each other," Torek continued. "Not on enemies, on themselves. Human history is written in blood. They have killed billions of their own kind. They do not stop. They cannot stop. Fighting is part of what they are." The first speaker leaned forward. "Then they are dangerous. All the more reason to conquer them quickly, before they can turn these weapons on us. You do not understand." Torek shook his head. "When we arrived, they did not fight. They surrendered. But they did not surrender because they were afraid. They surrendered because they were planning." He brought up one more image. A map of Earth, covered with dots. Each dot was a military base, a weapons facility, a training center. "They have been watching us," Torek said. "Learning our weaknesses. Training to exploit them." The girl who defeated Voss was not special. She was just the first. There are millions like her. Humans who have trained their entire lives to defeat larger, stronger enemies. He looked at the council. "We conquered the Morthian Collective in 6 days. They were warriors. They had 1,000 years of military tradition. This child defeated Captain Voss using techniques her species considers a hobby. They practiced them for exercise, for fun." The council was silent. The images of human warfare still floated in the air, a testament to a species that had turned killing into an art form. "If we fight them," Torek said, "we will win battles. Our ships are stronger. Our numbers are greater. But they will not stop fighting. They will learn our weaknesses. They will teach each other. They will develop new weapons, new strategies, new ways to kill us. And one day, they will win." The first speaker stared at the images for a long time. Finally, she spoke. "Your recommendation? Leave them alone," Torek said. "Find other worlds to conquer, other species to rule. Humanity is not worth the cost. They are a species designed for war. They have been preparing for an enemy like us since before they knew we existed." The council debated for 3 days. In the end, they voted to accept Torek's recommendation. Earth was marked on their maps with a warning symbol. A small planet in a quiet corner of the galaxy that should never be touched. Far away. On that small planet, Una walked to school on a warm summer morning. The streets were full of people enjoying their freedom. Children played in parks. Families ate at restaurants. Life had returned to normal, or something close to it. Jiwoo was waiting for her at the school gates. She was smiling, as she had been smiling for 3 months now. "You saved the world," Jiwoo said, falling into step beside her friend. "And you still have to take the history exam tomorrow." Una laughed. "I would rather fight Voss again." They walked through the school together. Other students waved at Una. Teachers nodded respectfully. She was famous now, though she had never wanted to be. Her name was known in every country, in every language. The girl who had shown the galaxy what humans could do. But Una did not feel like a hero. She felt like what she had always been. A student, a daughter, a friend, a human being on a small planet, trying to live her life, During lunch, she went to the roof. This was her quiet place, where she could be alone with her thoughts. She looked up at the sky. Clear and blue and empty. Ji-woo found her there, as she always did. "Do you think they will come back?" Ji-woo asked, sitting beside her. "The Valari? Or others like them?" Yuna considered the question. The universe was vast. There were billions of stars, billions of planets, billions of species looking up at the same sky. Humanity was not alone. It had never been alone. "Someday," Yuna said, "someone will come. They always do. And when they do?" Yuna turned to her friend and smiled. This time, the smile was real. It reached her eyes and warmed her whole face. "Then we show them what else we have been practicing." She looked back at the sky. Somewhere out there, alien empires were drawing lines around Earth on their maps. Warning symbols. Danger signs. A small blue planet that was not worth the trouble. They did not know what they were looking at. They saw a primitive world full of soft, weak creatures. They did not see the truth. They did not see a species that had spent 200,000 years learning to fight. A species that practiced war the way others practice music. A species that had turned survival into an art and killing into a science. They did not see humanity. But if they ever came back, they would learn. Just as Voss had learned. Just as Torek had learned. Just as the entire Valari Empire had learned. Some species were not meant to be conquered, and humanity was one of them. The sun shone down on Sol. On Earth, on a species that had finally looked up and seen its place in the universe. Not as prey. Not as victims. Not as a small planet full of soft creatures waiting to be taken, but as something more. Something dangerous. Something that even the greatest empires in the galaxy had learned to fear. Yuna finished her lunch and went back to class. Tomorrow she would take her history exam. Next week, she would train at her dojang. Next month, she would graduate and begin her life as an adult. Just another human. On just another day, in just another life. And somewhere in the stars, the aliens told each other stories about Earth, about the planet they had tried to conquer and failed, about the girl who had defeated their greatest warrior with her bare hands. They told the stories as warnings. Humanity listened to those stories and smiled. Let them warn each other. Let them draw their lines and post their signs. Humanity would be ready. Humanity was always ready.